This episode of SJFS is brought to you by Mirror Angels Paradise. Guys, it's 25% off for the Christmas Steam Winter 2018 sales. Offer ends January 3, boys. Prove to yourself that you can get to the top of the tower right now, dudes. 25% off Mirror Angels Paradise. You'll be supporting me. I really appreciate it. There's also a free demo. Check it out. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the video. Hey guys, on the last episode I brushed over a fine detail that the enemies are actually capable of using more commands than just attack automatically as they'd done in the past. But I had so much stuff to talk about with the ailments that I wasn't able to get this in without it being a stupid long video. So I've summarized it for myself here so that I won't waffle on for too long. But giving enemies the ability to have their own commands has required a little bit of work because the player has more agency over how commands are used, right? They're selected from a menu first of all, and then you use the cursor to select the target, and if it's a multi-target spell, then based on who you're hovering with the cursor, it generates the red squares underneath, which is showing you what's going to be hit. The enemy needs to work off a corresponding AI script that's going to be associated with every enemy type, because that will determine what moves it can use, when it will use the moves, because we'll want behavior such as an enemy might open with the same command every time but then default to a small random pool of commands, or an enemy might reactively heal enemies that take damage. So to make fights really interesting, we need to give them a little bit more work. But I'll give you a little summary of how all the commands work in the game now, so how the battle works. First of all, a command to execute needs three primary things, and they're these things at the top. C, which is the actual command that's going to be executed. That determines the source requirements and the number of targets that are required, which is going to be stored in a list of targets. There's only ever one source because the source is the player or enemy that's actually invoking the ability, and the requirements for how many targets you need can change. A single target spell technically only needs the singular target, but a lot of other commands which either have random targets or repeatedly hit different targets or hit all targets, they need to access what we call the target list. C plus S plus TL is pretty much what a command needs. So how the player constructs this, right, is when it's their turn, straight away the source of the command is set to themselves, easy peasy, and the menu pops up which shows the 8 equipped commands that the player has. So based on which one you hover over and select, that's what you're setting to C in this equation. And then we come up with a targeting menu, and you get T by, well, again, whatever the cursor selects, right? Easy peasy. Now, once we have the command and the target, we can extrapolate that information to get the target list. And you can see that's automatically done when you're hovering over an enemy with a multi-target spell. It's already hovering with the red boxes underneath what targets will be a part of that target list. So you can see it generate on the fly, right? Yeah, and then all of that goes into our object command. The command object is at the time of executing the attack. That's got like the movements and the animations that need to be played. It's got the timings for when damage is applied. It's got all the logic for the command. Easy peasy. So we create that object. We don't execute it yet. We create it. It's ready to go. And then we put it on the battle command stack, which is an array of commands that are to be executed. Because if enemies and players are entering their commands at the same time, there's a lot going on, the battle needs to play those out one at a time. Great. So when it comes to enemy, it's a little bit different because we don't have the interfaces that the player has. So first of all, their action time bar works the same as the player. So once they're up, it's their turn. They're automatically the source, easy peasy. Now, we can't select a target, we can't select a command and then a target from a menu. We have to select the command and the target at the same time based on an AI script that the enemy has, because we can't have the enemy select a command first without knowing what targets are available, because we don't want it to execute a command that can't actually be executed. So before it decides to heal an ally, it needs to know what the target could be to assess the target's health, or if there even is an ally, and that all goes into the AI decision of whether or not that target will be that command will be used at all. So we've got this kind of object that's called command prepare. I've got the literal, not all of these names line up perfectly, but in this case, yeah, I actually made this command prepare, and it's got exactly the S plus C plus TL that we had here, and we have a count to, the pairs with the array, so we know how many entries are in there. Technically, you could say that the primary target is 0, so if you want T to be a part of the equation, that's the 0 entry, but we don't actually need the primary target once we generate the list of targets, which is already going to be done for the enemy AI during this process. Yeah, and then once we do have S plus C plus T, we can generate the TL, and then we're at the same step here, except there's one more level of abstraction where the command prepare is giving us the C plus S plus TL, and then it goes into command, and then it's added to the stack as well. So that's kind of how it goes. I'll show you the AI script that was doing the actions. So under enemy AI, I've only got 2. I've got default, which mimics what was happening before essentially. So the command is attack, and then we add a target, which is we select a random player target. So that'll give us a target that's alive and that's valid for the attack, and then that's our prepared command. We don't need to set the source in here. Yeah, we don't need to give it the source, because when we're polling an enemy for its next action, the first thing that's done is the prepare object's made and the source is given, because that's easy. And then based on the enemy's index, there's only 3 possibilities yet. Imp uses AI imp, Coral also uses AI imp, and default, which means if their entry is missing, then I'm giving myself a helpful error, and then it defaults to this attack. So if I ever make a mistake and you run into a enemy that pops up this message, then you know it's just going to attack every turn at a random player. So the imp's AI, this is the possible moveset, which both the imp and the Coral were doing, so they were behaving the same. I've got a temporary list here with the 3 commands I was testing out, and it simply just randomly selects one of the 3. It's just 1 in 3 for every one. And then the same target, the same targeting happens is that we get a random target. But we have a lot of space to work in here. If I wanted one of the options to be a heal ability, then I could have the target selection happen beforehand. I could say, well, can we find a target that has less than 50% health to heal? And then I could do that. And if that falls through, then I could default to a list like that. So there's a lot of power in this AI, and this kind of substitutes for the player's ability to select a command from the command menu and then to select a target. Yeah, so I think that stuff's quite interesting, and that's opened up to really have customized fights. We're getting close to being able to have a whole bunch of enemies with the art that I've been slowly adding to, and giving them all unique behavior, and behavior that isn't purely random but has some meaning behind it, so we can make some really tough fights. I just need some more commands, get the ailments and stuff working, and then yeah, it's getting close. So either I'll end it here or I'll add something small to the end of this video, but I'll catch this. Thanks. Alright, here's your bonus bit of progress that's sticking around. If your characters die, they become coffins. And then you travel the rest of your life as a floating coffin. And if you go into battle again, the game soft locks, because we're in a state that we should never have been in. The enemies are getting prepared to use their attack. There's no valid alive target, so they're resetting themselves, and that's happening constantly. On the player side, if you're not alive, you don't generate action time bar. So, this is our life, dudes. Thanks for watching, guys.